Hey everyone, here's a scenario for you. You still love that bike, but you would really want to try a slacker head angle on that same bike. I mean, 70 degrees head angle in 2022 is not exactly confidence inspiring. Luckily, my fellow Canadians at 9point8 came up with the Slacker kits, allowing us to change that. Let's check it out. Well, pretty much everything you need to know about Slacker is well explained on the 9point8 website. There's still a couple of gotchas, the installation that I want to cover in this video, so let's get to it. And this truck, the previous generation top fuel frame, has an integrated headset, just like many other modern mountain bikes today, and that doesn't give you a lot of options. But that is exactly what Slacker is meant to do, address the needs of bikes with IS bearings. But one thing that I have to bring up before we even get into this is a compatibility concern that is clearly mentioned in their troubleshooting. And what I'm talking about is 20 millimeters of steer available here at the headset. This bike was set up for racing with the stem slanted all the way down to the headset, so we only have about 5 millimeters of steer available. So unfortunately, this top fuel with this Fox 32 with a really short steerer cannot take the Slacker the way it is. My Yeti SB100 though has two 10 millimeter spacers under the stem, so in this case I could install the Slacker kit no problem. And I call this a Slacker kit because Slacker, it's a modular assembly consisting of the upper cup, what's called the tensioner of the middle section, and then the bottom cup. And if you're asking yourself the question, how do I know which pieces to choose? Don't worry about that. The first thing that you have to do after making sure you have enough steer is to measure your headset length. Then go to the 9point8 website to the Slacker kits page and plug that information here on this drop down menu. If I choose 100 millimeters, what you're gonna see is the two kits available for your bike, a 1.4 degree kit and a 1.7 degree kit. In our case, we have a 90 millimeter headset, so the only option available is this Alpha kit that provides us with 1.5 degree, and you can use that to make your headset slacker or steeper depending on your application. Once you select that, you're going to be taken to this page where you can clearly specify whether you have a specialized frame or not. In this case, it's a Trek. And the last thing to choose here is whether you have an IS41 or IS42 headset. 41 or 42 refers to this internal dimension of your IS frame prep. You can see you have a 45 degree angle here that your bearing is going to sit on, and you have an internal dimension that I'm going to mention later on as well. But if we just measure this frame, this is going to be 41 and a tiny bit. That is also the external dimension of this top headset bearing. So this is an IS41 frame. And you have a separate setting for specialized bikes because they don't follow the same headset standards. Also, specialized bikes will require 24 millimeters of available steer. So keep that in mind, even a longer steer than all the other bikes. In our case, 20 millimeter IS41, let's install it. And the details of that are right here at the bottom of the ordering page where you're going to see the installation instructions. We've already completed this step number 1. That is asking you to remove the fork. Parts and tools needed for the install. In this Alpha kit, you're going to have 3 pieces like I mentioned. The specifics of them are here mentioned in the back. And that includes this proprietary tool that's included in the same box with the tensioner. And then you're going to need Loctite glue. You're going to need, this is carbon paste, whether you install this kit on an aluminum frame or carbon frame, this is still recommended. You're going to reuse the existing headset. You might need a little bit of tape and a marker. And finally, you're going to need a torque wrench with an extension and a 19 millimeter or a 3/4 inch socket that would fit this proprietary tool from 9point8. The design of this is pretty slick and interesting. What you're doing, you are recreating a head tube inside of your head tube. The 3 pieces are threaded together. The bottom thread is lefty tighty, so left hand. The top thread is righty-tighty, and you're building this up inside your frame. If you look here at the top and bottom cups, you're going to see how now they are offset versus the position where the bearings were before, and that's how you're getting that steerer a bit slacker, assuming that's what you want to accomplish. Obviously, you're going to apply Loctite here on the threads of the two pieces, and carbon paste where the upper cup and the lower cup are going to touch the frame. And I'm talking about this 45-degree area here or surface where the adapter touches the frame. And once installed, we're going to reach from the bottom and we're going to tighten. This is the final tightening of the headset inside of your frame. 9point8 recommends 30 Newton meters as the perfect torque that's not going to damage your frame. Both the upper cup and the lower cup have this line here that has to be aligned with the center of your frame. That way you have these new exterior cups properly aligned so they can provide you the new head tube angle. Next step is to clean your frame very well with isopropyl alcohol. Make sure that you can fit the three pieces through your headset. There will be situations on certain frames where this inside or internal dimension of your IS prep is too small. And that is because the IS headset standard introduced by Cane Creek, by the way, doesn't really mention the minimum opening here of your frame. It only specifies the maximum. So if your cups don't fit into the frame, you're going to have to take some sandpaper and just make this hole a bit larger. But in case you have to open this bearing seat a couple of millimeters, 9point8 recommends using a 1-inch diameter drum sanding bit and a hand drill. That's not going to affect the integrity of the frame as the bearings only rest here on that portion, the 45-degree angle that you see here on the sides. Also, some frames might have the cable routing as a tube-in-tube starting right here at the front of the frame, and that could interfere with the use of the slacker. Obviously, in this case, for this track, that's not an issue. If you have a newer track with a knock block, the slacker is going to allow you to use a regular stem as you don't install that knock block anymore. Also, because of the extra height of the bottom cup, your fork is most probably going to clear the frame, but you have to check for that. I use that masking tape and the Sharpie to mark here the middle of the frame. You're going to have to do this at the top and at the bottom of the frame. Apply a bit of carbon paste here on that 45-degree angle area. Remember, you're going to do this for both top and bottom cups. Apply the same paste right here where the upper and the lower cup is going to touch the frame. And after applying some Loctite glue on the upper cup and the tensioner, and I'm going to freeze right here to say, don't use that much Loctite. This is way too much. Only cover a couple of threads, or even better, use anti-seize if you just want to test it out on your bike. You're going to connect the tensioner first to the bottom cup. Next, you're going to insert the top cap. Grab that socket extension with the 9point8 proprietary tool. Reach out from the bottom of the frame. And you're going to start to tighten this together by hand. But don't go more than a couple of turns because you're going to look for that center mark. And I have it nicely lined up here at the top. And while holding on that top cap so it doesn't move, you're going to line up the bottom cap again with the center of the frame. So now you're going to have to hold on to the upper and the lower cup and continue to tighten them together all the way to snug. Then grab your torque wrench and tighten the whole assembly to 30 Newton meters like I mentioned. And this is a complete installation of the slacker kit. And we now have a frame that is 1.5 degrees slacker, has a slightly higher stack height, and you're going to have a slightly higher bottom bracket as well, but think about a millimeter or two, not the whole height of the bottom cup. And the only thing to be done is to clean these new cups, grease them, and reinstall your fork. And I bet that you can't wait to give this a try. Now, the slacker is $100 It does transform your bike, I would say enough to make a difference. 1.5 degrees slacker hand angle is going to help you on the downhills. It might affect your climbing as well, but I would say don't give up too easily. And if you started down this path of modifying your bike, don't be afraid to move your saddle up and down, change the stem length, whatever else might be, to readjust to the new geometry. And if you stuck with me for this long, check in the description of the video for a 10% discount on Slacker. Thank you, 9point8. Remember not to put a lot of Loctite on the threads of the Slacker if you ever want to take it down. Let me know if you have any questions. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And until next time, hope to see you folks on the trails. Cheers, guys. Cheers.